On this episode of ITAV, we take a look at the hybrid model of the next workspace, what that means for security as well as what that means for the work at home, and taking a look at remote access in the new workspace. All that and more next on ITAV.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ITAV, episode 44, recorded Friday, July 24th, 2020. Rogue Access.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Sure. Sound extraordinary.
This is the ITAV show. My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host. This is where we look at the IT industry and the AV industry and how they all come together. With me to talk about that, all these things that we're discussing this month. First and foremost, my buddy and pal, Mr. Derek Junkus from Extron. Welcome, sir.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. Also with us, both of these guys are from due north of me. First and foremost, Mr. Sean Reed, Astroman. How are you, sir?
Very well, sir. Hanging in there.
Good. And also Brad Colt from HGA, due west of him in Minneapolis. How are you, sir?
Very good.
Yeah, I had to think for a second, Derek, which direction we're all in. And actually, technically, since I don't know if football is going to happen, Sean and Brad are my mortal enemies in their respective areas. We just need somebody from Detroit. And Derek's not in Detroit. No, don't get your freaking Packers. Good God. All right, first story here. Let's talk about the new normal, because I hate the phrase, and it is what everybody's talking about. From our buddies over at Commercial Integrator, Zach Como writes from Poly's perspective about how this hybrid work will be the new normal. What they're talking about is the idea that both you're going to have folks at work and at home and folks that do kind of both. That's going to lead to a number of things that are kind of that'll evolve and transition the workspace, including those wonderful huddle spaces that we've all put in over the last 5 or 6 years. I still remember Infocom, I want to say 2011, 2012, where that was the number one phrase on everybody's mouth was, this is the new space. This is the new thing. This is, you take, a 6x6 room and you can get 2 or 3 people in it. And now we don't have that luxury. So what's that going to look like? And what's also that going to look like from a networking standpoint? Sean, I'm going to start with you because you do this currently. This is what you do. Sean's a great contractor, both from programming and DSP and all other stuff. He works both with integrators as well as end users at his house, but also on site and in their offices. So when we look at this is something where now the IT department kind of sort of weirdly extends to your home for a little bit, right? There are parts and pieces that the IT folks are going to be responsible for supporting in folks' homes. So what is that going to look like as we all kind of get back into the offices and we have this quote unquote new normal, this hybrid work where sometimes you're at home and sometimes you're in the office?
So that is really interesting. As this pandemic expands, there's a lot of interesting new things coming out. So the first thing I'm noticing a lot of clients, especially end users, are doing is upgrading 2 distinct things. They're usually getting people in their homes new laptops, either with a better built-in camera or sending them better cameras and routers, because a lot of people are working from home. Perhaps they have a desktop at their office. Now they're having to use their personal laptop, which either isn't secure or is a little older. So upgrading these basic devices. And then what they're trying to do is trying to find ways to bring some people back in the office. There are people who do need to be in the office managers, some account receivables people. It depends on the industry. So you're seeing companies like Robin and Envoy now launching these beta projects where they're telling you how you can reuse your space. I just started playing with, and I've seen some clients use to figure out how to reuse and repurpose their space, which is difficult. Especially if you just bought a building in the last 2 years and now it's sitting empty and you're paying a mortgage and utilities and insurance on a building that's literally sitting empty and earning you no money, which is a big problem. I've been trying to push a lot of clients to reusing that space, basically releasing it, which is something I spoke about before. 2 people I know are trying it and having some success with it, taking their huddle rooms and repurposing them basically as co-working spaces, renting them out on a daily or hourly basis to individuals and be able to see a little bit of a turn. So that's kind of cool. but it's hard. I mean, you still need to now have someone in the office to manage the people physically there. You have to have your janitorial staff there. So there's other things that go along with that. So security has always been the biggest thing. Someone working at home on their Charter, Spectrum, BIOS, whatever they have, is it secure? Yeah, and there's different ways. Do we put in a VPN? Do we, start shipping everyone X company's routers because we've been told they're secure, and then getting into an IT discussion? What I've pretty much just told most of my clients is, hardware is important, and you can do a lot of things in the back end to protect that. And as long as the camera is good enough that you can see the person, you don't need to spend $400,000 to ship everyone a Hudley, suddenly because they're working at home, unless you really just want to spend the money and you got a buddy who works at Hudley. I guess the best advice I could give, which is what I give most of my clients, is look what works best for you. If you can absolutely move your entire workforce remote and it's not going to hurt your bottom line, in other words, your overhead, do it for now. If you do need to have some kind of hybrid experience, which is what one of the articles was talking about, this new hybrid, people coming in and out, or some there, some not, then you really do need to have a plan for social distancing in the office, and every office is different. And one of the main problems, going back to what changed in the last 5 years, 5 to 10 years, when we saw this move from traditional office space to the open office space, where people didn't have walls, everyone's sitting at these big long tables because we're all hanging out and riding our hoverboards and playing ping pong instead of actually working. So we're always in this close proximity and socializing rather than doing work.
You sound like an angry old man, dude.
And
you're not.
Hey, I'm an angry 40-year-old who does not like the generation right below me and the way they work. And I actually was on a call, a happy hour with some people, I will not say because they will see this, very nice people, but was complaining about the hoverboard culture at work and not understanding that some of us have kids and families and need to go home at 5 and not hang out till 7 playing Nintendo. But no, seriously, the idea of an open workspace is probably the biggest problem to social distancing now. If you've got a big open office workspace and people cannot isolate in the office, what do you do? And in a traditional office, at least you had cubicles. Those have gone away. Everyone's just around. And it's just difficult. So in a sense, what we tried to do by getting people to socialize more in the workspace, which is a great thing for our mental, emotional health, is now become a very difficult challenge going forward for our actual physical health.
Yeah.
So that becomes a new thing. So like I said, Robin and Envoy have 2 betas. They're launched right now that allow you to lay in your office space and see how you can manage it better and keep people social distancing. My good friend, Kreshner Tokic from formerly of Electrosonic, now over in Maryland at a company's name I can't remember, I apologize, has put together a really cool set of standards for social distancing in workspaces, which I will be pirating and incorporating to my next article for AVNation, so keep your eyes out for that. And that's my shameless plug for 2 people, and I'm done.
All right, Brad. If you don't know, HGA is an architecture firm up in Minneapolis, and other ones as well. Take a look at this from that perspective, and also from the technology's perspective. Sean's right. When we get back to the office, we're going to have to repurpose some of these things. So how do you have that conversation with your clients and take a step back and look at this kind of like a holistic perspective? And say, okay, here's what you've got, right? This is the technologies that you've already spent the money on, right? This is what we can do with that going forward, and repurpose some of these spaces as well as some of these technologies as we get into this kind of hybrid work environment.
Yeah, Sean's exactly right that we've been moving towards smaller workspaces for individuals, open offices, a lot of these smaller enclosed spaces for people to be able to collaborate in, because we realized that those 12, 16-person conference rooms were most often used by 2 people. And now that interior design of office space has done a about face in just a matter of moments there when this whole thing hit. So what we've been doing is reaching out and polling our clients and finding out what are their plans for coming back to work and what are the things that most affect them. So we just published a survey from several thousand different client responses that we've analyzed and put together ideas of how we're able to help address them through space and technology solutions. So it's looking at somewhat of how to reconfigure spaces, but also, just like you say, how do we take what you already have and make it easier to use, make it something that you're able to social distance in, and trying not to have to lay out a lot more capital in these challenging economic times to be able to make their spaces more feasible for being able to come in and work. So some of that is the strategy of, are you working in shifts? Are you, doing other things like that to bring people in, make sure you have cleaning and you can communicate what those rules are to people as you circulate through the office and as you have processes for cleaning up after yourself, or what is the building doing, and being able to communicate that to people so that they feel safe in those environments. Now, the other part of that is the technology piece, and we're going to touch on some of this and some of our other stories we're going to talk about with some more of the remote connections to manage and troubleshoot some of that equipment. But for us, it's been a lot of, how do we make this office touchless? That's been one of the big conversations, and looking at how are we able to put in some controls and ways to measure whether people are social distancing. And it's not so much about being punitive and giving a slap on the wrist to say, hey, you are not staying away from people, but it's more of the insight that people need to be able to understand how to reconfigure offices so that they are accommodating that social distance that people need. And I think that now that the genie's out of the bottle, you're not going to put the toothpaste back in that tube. Let's see how many more metaphors we can mix here. But once people have gotten a taste for what it's like being able to work from home, that we're not going to go back to 100% working in the office all the time like we had been before. It's not what we were doing before either. It had been a little bit more informal of the hybrid way of working. That's what I've been doing for quite a long time. But I do think that people are very eager to get back to work from the social aspect. It's really difficult to be able to maintain the same level of company culture when we're not able to get together and socialize and have some of those informal gatherings and be able to just have the serendipitous meetings in the hallway. And I think people are really eager to get back to that. So we all want to try and make sure that we're doing the right things to do that safe and responsibly, so that we're all being able to, build off of not going back to that old norm, but, taking the things that worked from that culture, the things that are working well from our current way that we're working remotely, and being able to put that all together into something that's going to be a new and hopefully better way that we're working together.
Absolutely. Derek, a little bit kind of an odd shot here. Extron is not a residential company. Let's start with that kind of assertion. Is that fair to say? It's not
Totally fair. Yeah.
Yeah, not that you won't find Extron products in homes, but like Extron doesn't show at Cedia, right, which is primarily a residential show. However, there is an opportunity here now, and is it something where is it where residential dealers are going to start coming to you guys to say, hey, I have to build out this home office, or is it the commercial side that's going to say, hey, I've got to put this in a house? How does this work? Or is this a kind of a Wild West right now where, there's going to be some hybrid, which is another really buzzword that I hate using, but a hybrid model, where as folks are doing this whole working from home and working from the office thing, we've got to build these home offices out almost to the level of what they would expect at the office.
Yeah, potentially. And I like Brad and Sean have both pointed out, I think hybrid is appropriate to use as a descriptive word, because it's kind of about the experience, because it really doesn't define to what extent, you're going to be in one location or another, or that everyone's going to have the exact same experience or same expectations. It's just that you're going to need a blend of things to be able to accommodate whatever your business needs are. And what, some things that we found interesting, just to, like you guys were sharing some of your research, like Brad with HGA, I believe there's kind of this new paradigm of accessibility. Accessibility used to be, you would think about accessible option for somebody that might have some kind of physical disability or some impairment that caused them not to be able to enjoy the same experience as an able-bodied person might be able to do. Well, the strange thing about a pandemic is it is in some ways, it just cuts across everything. Nobody gets what they've bargained for in any way. And so, you're not getting able to leverage all the same things you would have made a decision on a year ago to be able to leverage now, because the decision matrix is completely different. The circumstances are different. The outcomes that you're looking for might be completely different. So I look at the accessibility side as permeating more into areas where it has our industry in a position, I think, to help afford that pivot. Right, I think we're born to pivot in this industry. There's been lots of pivots. I won't say they're all pandemic level, but they've all been important pivots. And some of them, we like to go to Infocom or other places and pivot around a technology announcement. In this case, everyone's being forced by default to have to pivot to this normal. And the trouble is, nobody really knows if the decisions you're making are on what end of the pendulum swing. So are you making it high on the arc? Are you making it low on the arc? And I think that contributes to some folks exploring, what is something that they can use to make a firm decision on? Like what's one area that they're confident in their business or in health circumstance and their policies that allows them to make a decision about what's the best for their organization. Some industries, I think, have said it rather quick. Hey, we're going to support remote work, and that's going to be available by default. I think other organizations aren't able to be as flexible because some things that they need to do are sort of rooted in their office experience. So I wouldn't say that at Extron we're getting a lot of questions about the products that you can deploy at home, but we're certainly getting a lot of questions and offering a lot of advice and input on the ways that you can extend your products you already have and make them accessible from your home if that's what you need to do.
Thanks so much for watching this first segment of IT AV. To check out the rest of the show for free, click on the link below or go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.